Hey guys, this is Anthony, Tim, Mike, Frank. We're coming to you with episode 2 of Shooting the Breeze at Bobby V's. And we have a couple of different topics. I know Frank really likes it when we run it. We are talking about a couple of different topics today, but the overarching topic that covers them all is the heart of the game, right? And there are so many emotions that play into the game and so many things that, you know, we talked about family and all those other topics. So the first thing we're going to get into is some of our first memories of the game. And you know, Tim referenced he used to be able to pay me in sandwiches. So, you know, as an Italian, food and coming together is a big thing. One of my first memories of the game was at Stanford. We were at the pit in Scalzi Park, and it was a little league t-ball game. And you know, I don't have very memories from them, but I remember after the game, every player got a little box of pretzel sticks and an apple juice, and we just ate and played, and it was just like a really, really happy memory. And I guess now that as I look back at it, it's important. Food and drink. Food, drink, and it's also just an equalizer. You know, sharing a meal with people, and it just everything kind of gets set apart. And that was my first memory. I also wasn't really good at baseball like these guys, so you know that the family thing is big for me, and the eating is big. I like food. So yeah, how about you guys?
We're not going to talk today.
Okay, you guys are silent. All right, I'm on to the next topic by myself. So yeah, first memories or favorite memories as a kid, you know, whatever.
My first one, I was young, 3, 4 years old. Got an older brother, 3 years older than me. We used to play this game in the backyard. We used to call it triple play. We used to put fake runners in different scenarios and turn a triple play. You got to run the third base, cover the bag, tag them, throw it to second, throw it back to home. We already got 3 outs, and I was covering home plate, and he was looking for a fourth. And he threw the ball, and it caught me square in the teeth. And I still had, you know, the little baby teeth. I remember my grandfather sitting on the deck and watching his face after I was just mushing blood out. And funny thing about it, the guy that couldn't count to 3 is now an engineer for the Navy, and he's doing a lot of counting. But because he couldn't figure it out back then, I had to wear one in the teeth. But kind of got back out there the next day.
Is that why you swat every single moving object that's around you?
It's total defense.
Yeah, I feel a tooth fairy that night.
Oh yeah, they came out, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And you know what? That same kid, he threw a spoon at me too, and he chipped my tooth. You know, Mom was making brownies, had the bowl, the batter mix, and you know, I tried to get a little bit of that. He took the spoon, whipped it right at the face, hit me in the face. I got yelled at.
Glad I have a sister, I guess.
You guys?
I don't remember.
No.
I'll tell you. I think the first memory of me when I was little playing baseball was, you know, going to the backyard with my father, and he was just, you know, throwing me wiffle balls. And I had a wiffle ball bat, and I think the first pitch that he threw me, I just lined right back at his face, and he was smoking a cigar, and I just put a cigar out, just busted up his face.
Like a Bugs Bunny scene.
My mom's over there cheering me around. Go, Mike, oh, Mike. My dad's getting mad.
No, just change there.
Typical marriage. Typical marriage. That's why they got divorced later on the road. But now, Dad, God bless your soul. But that's probably one of the memories that stands out to me when I was at a younger age.
That's awesome.
So my first memory of the game was actually here in Stanford. I was born in the Bronx and traveled all over the country from the time I was born until I was 7 years old. And when I was 8, I started playing tiny league baseball down Scalzi Park, and I had this goofy little Snoopy character sweatshirt on. And it turned out who became my best friend's dad was the coach of the team. And
Danny's dad?
no, I have a series of all. I have a big basket of best friends. You guys are my best friends. Mike Quineri is his name. Dad Joe, down Scalzi Park, and I was a pitcher. For some reason, I had a first baseman's glove, and they wouldn't let me pitch with it. But that was like the first memory of the whole competition of really playing baseball. And I couldn't throw strikes. I could throw it hard, but I couldn't throw strikes. So I remember the emotions of the game were pretty high and low at the time. But
That sounds like my college career.
But but a funny story that relates to baseball. But you know what? As I'm thinking of all these things, they're all about friends. They're all about all the great friends that I've made through my baseball career as a player, as a coach, and doing this together. But from a very young age, I used to go out and find rocks and throw rocks all the time. It was just what I did, and I don't really remember this. My parents had to tell me about it all the time. And my dad would come home from work, and he'd say to my mom, "Did he throw rocks today?" And she'd say, "Yeah, he was throwing rocks." I'd expect, and I guess we can say whatever we want. My dad used to hit me with a belt. I think we need more of that in today's society. He used to hit me with a belt because I was out throwing rocks. So Einstein that I am, I just started to get into a routine that when I heard my dad coming home from work, I'd just go get the belt. I wanted to stop throwing rocks. But I just go get the belt.
That's a good adjustment you made.
You had to make one, right? Being a good player is all about making adjustments. That was my adjustment.
Huge.
A lot of crazy stories. You just put me in my backyard, and my dad immigrated here from Italy, played soccer his whole life, had no idea what baseball even was, but really got into it and watched me play. And I remember one time asking him to throw me batting practice in the yard, and he has zero concept of where the ball's going to go, so he just starts throwing, and he's throwing perfect strikes. And I started hitting the ball, and I hit one off the house, whatever it was, and I was so shocked that my dad could throw strikes. And he looked at me and said, "I threw a lot of rocks when I was younger." There you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, back in Italy, throwing rocks at rabbits. Actually, they're trying to, they were trying to eat. Yeah.
And what did he do when his dad got home? He probably ran and hit.
Yeah,
Give him a high five.
Yeah. No, there was more than belts going on back then in Italy for sure.
So my dad's story, you're talking about that. I mentioned I was pitching. I couldn't throw strikes so well, so my dad, in an effort who knew nothing about baseball, to try to help me throw strikes, he'd get in a catcher squat with a glove, and if I didn't throw a strike, he'd just let it go and make me go. We wouldn't have a basket of balls. There wasn't a backstop behind it. We used to do it on the side of the house, go right up the side of the house and down the street. That's where the Forrest Gump story. That's what people
Run over parties for all my school career.
We're laughing because one of Frank's nickname is Forrest Gump because, again, Dad didn't know much about baseball, and back in the day, they weren't really lifting weights or all the training that we have today. And what was it?
A friend of his that he worked with who had played some minor league ball said, if your son wants to be a baseball player, it's really important to run. So I ran everywhere. I just ran all the time. That's Forrest Gump. I could have been that movie. I couldn't grow a beard.
Yeah, that's great. So a lot of crazy stories.
So those are the first memories. Those are the first things that we remember first time playing baseball, but then the topic today is lots of stories, and my God, this could go on forever.
Yeah, the hard part here in this segment is probably we're looking at high school and the college and the pro ball where these guys played, and the craziness in the stories there. I got to be honest, tough part for us is going to be keeping it PG. We got to make sure we're on, trying to make sure we share everything with you guys and still keep it appropriate, because people who have gotten to that level that we're going to talk about, as baseball keeps going, it just becomes crazy. So I think who wants to kick this one off?
Here's a good story. It just went around with the tooth thing. So we were playing. This was
Still true.
This was 13-year-old Babe Ruth. I played at Belltown. I'm sure my story is going to go backwards at some point, but I had just got a brand new pair of white spot-built spikes. They were sweet back in the day. And we were turning double plays, and I was shortstop, and I took the feed from the second baseman and did a little crossover coming across the bag, proper footwork. I get up straight, and my right foot caught my left foot, and I put a slice in my brand new. Because one of our other topics of one of the other things that we do. I don't know what we do. One's a podcast, one's a TV show. I don't know what we do. We're just talking in front of the camera, but one of them was talking about how you look and how you feel. And how you
look good, feel good, play good.
I went from the top of the world with my cool white spot first spikes, metal spikes ever. Man, I was bumming out. But on the same day, ground ball in the hole, I backhand and throw the first baseman. First baseman's not looking. Walt McGuire hit him right in the mouth, knocked his tooth out. How's he not looking? He's playing first base. Didn't say anything about how good we were. We had multi-ball infields going on all the time. But I think, is it the same day, Dr. Paraminis, the dentist, was one of our assistant coaches, and he took him right to his office and took care of that.
2:30 practice?
That was about 2:30. It's funny, 2:30, yeah. So yeah, that was a little story. Let's keep going.
Craziness.
Oh, I keep going.
Well, yeah, keep going. You hear the story, man.
Come on, Mike. Mike claims that he wasn't a stud in Little League. I find that hard to believe.
I really wasn't. I think I was an average player. I'll give you a good story with the type of player I was and how I fought when I was younger. I think I was an average player back in Little League. I mean, I don't think I made an all-star team until I was 13 or 14 years old. And I'm playing a game, actually this was 13-year 13-year-old Babe Ruth. And one of the instructors here.
So hold on one sec. You didn't make an all-star team until you were 13 or 14.
I think so,
And you
yeah.
started getting scouted at 16.
Yeah.
And then played professional 2 sports.
Yeah.
I think
That's
these 80 girls had you playing with dolls. They were trying to contain you and keep you around the house, and then you busted out.
Color in your hair.
I might have been one all-star team when I was 12, but when I was younger, I think I was like an average player. I was a shortstop, but and this is what I thought. This is a good memory because me and Kev Murray was one of the instructors when BVSA originally, took off, and he's one of my closest friends. Had a lot of success coaching Stanford Legion, and now he's heading up north to help his out of town.
Did you guys play in Norwalk together?
We did. We played at North Community together. All right, so Kev was a stud when we were young. When we were like 11, 12, 13, he was a stud, and he was always 1 year older than me. So I think I'm playing like 13 or 14, 15 Babe Ruth, and I couldn't find my batting gloves. I couldn't find my batting gloves, and one of the kids on my team knew Kev. I didn't know Kev at the time. And he goes, hold on. He goes, I'll get you some batting gloves. And he goes over to Kev. He goes, Kev, can I borrow your batting gloves? So Kevin comes here, you can use mine. I'm looking at Kev like, oh my God, I get to put this kid's batting gloves on. I'm definitely going to get a hit. And I went up there and got a hit, and I gave him a big hug after. He goes, no problem, Mike, you're welcome. And we to this day still talk about that, about how I thought those batting gloves were going to make me get a hit. That was a crazy moment of our life, going back to the younger years.
And now Kev is coaching third base and still laying out for ground balls.
Oh, yeah.
Literally
No
lay out and trying to backhand balls as a third baseman.
And that's one thing.
Oh, yeah.
I admire that in Kev. He keeps the kid in himself, and I think it keeps him going. I love the kid, But that was a memory, a story that we always talk about that I'll always remember. And then obviously the high school thing and the junior college team. I was very fortunate to play for a really good junior college. I mean, we won the national championship in 19. Do I really want to say the year right now?
Give it to him, man. You're making fun of Frank this whole time. Let's go, bro.
That's true. I'm buying Frank. That's like 40. No, I'm just kidding. It was like 1998. We
Got a haircut yesterday.
We won the World Series back in 1998. Our junior college team was like a baseball factory. Oh my God.
Yes, you did.
Tony,
It was
Norwalk.
unreal. Norwalk, it was a powerhouse.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys had, I think, Timmy Diamond was a couple of years after you guys,
Yeah,
right?
he was
You had
after.
Rhodes.
Was
Stefano there?
No, we had Nick Rhodes. We had Eric Bedard who pitched in the big leagues. I think off that championship team, we probably had 6 or 7 draft picks.
Yeah, holy.
It was a really special team, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is obviously winning the national championship was a great moment, playing with your friends, but I think I played for one of the best coaches to get us ready to go to the next level. The way he prepared us, the drills he did. But as far as on third base coaching, I led the nation that year in RBIs and home runs. I hit 28 home runs that year. Wow. And not once did he shake my hand coming around third. Not once. And I love the guy. And I'm
I have a
gonna see him.
similar story to
I'm going to
that.
see him next weekend because we're going down to Florida and coaching. I'm going to ask him about it. I go, why wouldn't you shake my hand one time? And I always thought because he had that big league mentality, but not once did he shake my hand. Me and all my friends were like, dude, you need to shake your hand again. And that's
Did he
just
shake
something
other players' hands?
No.
No.
Somebody at home run,
Yeah.
goes like this and just go about your business. You know what I mean? But
A lot of people talk about home runs as like momentum killers, right? Or just kind of like resets everything, and how like getting a hit after a home run is a huge part of that. So maybe he was just trying to just stay there. I'm interested to hear what he says.
Quick little common story for a different reason though. In Japan for 6 years, coaching with Bobby V. We played 144 games a season, plus playoffs, plus spring training. And one time in all 6 years did he shake my hand first after victory. You know, when the team wins, the coaches shake the hand. One time, the championship. Yep, he just, because I was his guy from home, I was his American guy, and he didn't want to show that I was the guy getting the handshake first. Plus, you know, the earlier years there was another head coach, so yeah, that pissed me off. I gotta go. How do we do that? So we're doing something different today. We're just gonna come and go as we please.
So that's our craziness, and this is part of our craziness here at Bobby V's. We always have things planned and other things come up. So Frank got pulled away for a sec, and it's actually hilarious because our next topic is what keeps us coming back. So hopefully he does come back. But yeah, like what keeps you coming back to the game? I mean, we talk about, you mentioned yesterday how baseball is such a game of failure, and you know, there are so many hardships, and you mentioned as you get older, the pyramid, and less players continue to make it on as you get older, and what makes you keep coming back to baseball and to this sport, and what is that for? I think that varies on the individual, right? And then your individual situation.
I think I've been fortunate that I never left. You know, I mean, I played in high school, I went to junior college, I was able to play professionally, and then I did the whole football thing and went to go play professional football after that. So I've always been around sports, but what brought me back, after football was ending, I had obviously had to hit the real world and get a job, and it was probably the same year, exactly the same year where Bobby and Mitch were starting this whole facility. And Bobby and Mitch really want you to come here and be my, director of curriculum, take it off, and I've been here ever since. But it's always in you. I mean, I think the game, the strive to be perfect, I think sometimes helps you. I know we've had this conversation just overall in life, how it helps you and hurts you, like the challenge of it. But I don't think the game's ever left us. And sure. why I come back is you work with the athletes we work with, and you see them progress, and you see them get better, you see them have the courage, you see them grow up right in front of your eyes, and it's the whole progression of what makes you happy when I'm teaching a client. So that's self-rewarding in its own way for me.
For sure. Yeah, I think like whenever you sit back and look at your own life from the third party perspective, you always try to analyze what could I have done better, what could I have done different in the past to help me climb that ladder and get to the place where I want to be. And there are certain things that you just don't know when you're a kid, and you just haven't experienced enough yet, and you just don't understand them. So I think for me, the coaching aspect of it was an opportunity to teach kids and allow kids a little bit of knowledge that we didn't have when we were growing up playing, to help them get to a better position than where we were. It's like when you're raising a family, you want to make each generation after you better. You want to get better and better generation after generation. And for me, it's like there's so much I learned after I stopped playing the game that I wish I knew when I still had it, when I was still an athlete, still out in the field, that to be able to transfer some of that knowledge to these kids and maybe give them a leg up on the competition, I think that's kind of one of the things that keeps me coming back. Because I wish I had that person that was in my ear and pushing me and keeping me focused when I was that age. And when you can provide that for someone else, like you were saying, that's the most powerful part of it. Yeah. When you drive home at the end of the day after a long night, you're not thinking about the business end of it. You're not thinking about that. You're thinking about the 10 minutes that you had talking to that kid after his lesson, and I think I got through to this kid. Mm-hmm. And then you see a couple months later, and you see a change in behavior, and then you see his off-the-field behavior start to change. And it's impactful.
Yeah. Like Frank said before, all these stories, they go back to friends and family and relationships, mm-hmm. and the relationships that we build, and that was me. I mean, the only reason I was here so much was loss, right? I mean, that was a lot of that. And then actually Frank was ready to fire me. And then thankfully for you called me. You got wising me back up. I called Frank. That kept me coming back. It's those relationships that long lasting, that just, like for me, growing up, I was in many different directions. And Mark Lasarenza, Mark Smith, I mean, poor guy, I was doing cartwheels in the outfield because I was so frustrated that he wouldn't let me protect him from these other coaches. Now, mind you, they're adults and I was a child at the time. And I tried to, have his back, and he yelled at me. And as a kid, I didn't understand why he was yelling at me. I was trying to have his back, And there's Frank, how you doing? How you doing? And, instead of, kicking me off the team and just kind of berating me, the next day of practice, he gave me a book. It was Be Quick But Don't Hurry from John Wooden. Hey, Frank, we're talking about what keeps you coming back. So glad you did.
Back.
Welcome back. First, can you throw like the welcome back track?
Welcome back. You guys want to... Should we tell where I just was?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Just had to meet with the zoning commissioner because we hope to have some food service in here in the not too distant future. And you have to go through all these different, jump through some hoops. We gotta get approvals from everybody. So zoning says that we can. He doesn't see any problems. That's a parking thing with them. We're going to be bringing more people in. That parking's an issue. So food coming to Bobby V's pretty soon.
Awesome. And that'll hopefully keep you coming back.
Sure.
So yeah, we all just told some stories about what keeps us coming back, and all of our individual stories generally came back to what you mentioned before about relationships, and being able to give back to kids. And I was just in the middle of telling a story about Mark Smith and how he helped me, and he, instead of kicking me off a team when I was being a little bit of a jerk, he gave me a book. And I'm not a big reader still to this day, but I remember reading that book and highlighting it and learning about the pyramid of success. And that was one of those first moments that kind of taught me that, okay, you've got some stuff to learn here. And then I met Mark Lasarenza, who really took me under my wing and and talked to me about so much more than just baseball, right? As a pitcher, it was great because I was a catcher, and he helped me from the pitcher's perspective about what pitchers are looking for, but just as a person, about just making sure, you know, you're doing the right thing, and you're treating everybody with respect, and you're communicating effectively, and all those things that we talk about all the time. He taught me, and it's, you know, now, like we mentioned, whatever podcast or talk show ago, we have all those kids coming back and working for us. You know, like think that like Matt Fraioli, who we coached when he was 12, or Verge, who was doing lessons, you know, almost 10 years ago, are producing our podcast and coaching our teams. You build a family, you know, and family keeps coming back. So I don't know if you have anything more on that.
You guys all told your story?
All of your family. Yeah,
I got a good one.
He's got one.
Well, I mean, baseball was my life, obviously, from throwing rocks to, you know, through tiny league and little league and high school and college and professional ball. And again, it's like I have all these different levels of baseball friends that we are almost still all in touch, which is unbelievable. But my professional career ended when I was 24. And it was tough, you know, as we see a lot of guys that come through our building who are just ending their careers, and it's tough, and I understand what they're going through. And it was tough, and I was bitter, I thought I was going somewhere, and next thing you know, I'm not a baseball player anymore. And I actually didn't come back home to Stanford for 2 years. I stayed down in Tampa, Florida with my buddy Lou, because I kind of didn't want to come home and face everybody and tell everybody that my career was over and blah, 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 and it was kind of weird. So through the end of my playing career, actually on one of the other iPods, TV shows, whatever we do here, we talked about, you know, my relationship with Bobby Valentine and how I met him. I met him when I got drafted, and one of my off seasons, I came home and saw an article in the paper, an ad in the paper, that he needed a bartender at his restaurant, and I called him up, and he actually answered the phone. I said, "Hey, it's Frank Ramppen, how you doing?" "Hey, how are you?" Talk about the season. He goes, I said, "I see you got an ad in the paper for a bartender." He said, "Yeah, you're not a bartender?" I said, "No." He said, "Come on down." I was bartending the next night. And I ended up working a lot at the restaurant. There's a whole bunch of stories. I was in the restaurant business with him for years, but a couple of years later, my baseball career ends. I stay in Florida. I finally come back home. I have more classes to take to get my degree. I end up taking those classes at Sacred Heart, and I end up going back to bartend and then managing Bobby V's restaurant in Stanford, and did several others. So talking about back to baseball, so several years later, so this was 2004, me and my wife Michelle, Bobby and his wife Mary, we're heading down to New York in the same car to a fundraiser, and we're just talking to Bobby. Says, "So it looks like I'm going to be going back to manage in Japan," because he had managed in Japan 2 different times. I don't know if everybody knows that. I said, "Really? That's cool." And my wife at the time, we had just built a house. We got married. We lived in my mom's basement. We saved a bunch of money. We bought a little piece of property. We built a house up in Redding, Connecticut. We have a 1.5-year-old. Frankie's 1.5, and she's pregnant. And Bobby starts talking about going back to coach in Japan. He says, "I can bring 2 American coaches with me." I said, "Really? Who are you bringing?" Just talking. He said, "Tom Robson, who's his longtime hitting coach, great guy." And I thought he was then going to say a couple other people that I had in mind, and he said, "You." I said, "Me?" You know, I hadn't been in baseball since I was playing. You know, I hadn't done anything really with baseball. I was running these restaurants for him. Now, baseball was my absolute life. I was so passionate about it, but, you know, it was over. And because I was a little bitter at the end and the way things ended, I didn't get back into it. I was 120% into the restaurant business, and he says, "Me?" I said, "Me?" So we just finished building our house up in Redding. We got a 1.5-year-old, and Michelle's pregnant. I went to Japan. So that next January, that was in August, that next January, you know, Michelle and I talked about it, and I left Michelle 8 months pregnant with the house to rent, and I helped move a few things out before I left. But talk about getting back into baseball. Here I am back into baseball for the first time since I was a player at the highest, you know, the major league level over in Japan. I've never coached. Never coached a game in my life. Didn't coach any kids around here. I hadn't coached yet. Didn't speak the language. So it was an unbelievable back into the game. But just another note on that, and this could be a whole nother day of talking, but, you know, when Bobby asked me to go, I've been with Bobby for years now, and we had developed a great friendship and a business relationship and a trust and blah, blah, blah. But again, I had never coached, and I'm like, he's taking me. And, I got there, I had my baseball background, so obviously I wasn't new to the game. But what I learned from him in those 6 years were absolutely unbelievable. And learning the language, we had interpreters, but learning a certain amount of language to talk. But he brought me there because I was a loyal guy to him who had a baseball background. And there's no doubt about it in my mind, the loyalty factor was far more valuable than the baseball knowledge that I had. He had all the baseball knowledge in the world. He knew he was going to teach me that. But as a manager of an organization, whether it's our organization here that we have or a baseball team, when you're the head guy, you got to know that the people that are working for you, that they trust you and they're loyal. Because you look at the baseball field every day, there's two coaches over there talking to a reporter or talking to a player or talking to somebody in the front office. And if you don't know that you can trust those people and you're not sure what's going on, that's how things really fall apart. You have people you could trust. So obviously I learned the game and it was tremendous, but the trust thing, which actually brings us to another topic that we have to talk about today, is what makes a championship team. And I don't know if we want to get to that right now, but that's part of what makes a championship team, is throughout the entire organization. And obviously at the higher levels, the organization is much bigger than coaching Little League. But that group of people, and I always do this, the first day I ever have practice with any teams I coach, I said, I don't care how good you guys are, we're going to come together as a team, because we're better when we're together than we are as individuals. And that was part of it. You know what? We won a championship over there. We won the Japan championship, we won the Asian series, the minor league team won the championship because things came together, and he started with a nucleus of people that he could trust, some people that he had with him in Japan previous years. And then the flip side of that is the organization started to change things. They started moving some people. They replaced some people over the next few years. That little loyalty trust thing fell apart, and we didn't win as much until we got rolling again towards the end of our tenure over there. So that's how I got back into the game. That's pretty cool. And then we talk about this place and Mitch and starting the whole deal, that opening BVSA, and
yeah, Mike mentioned that.
Yeah,
Mike mentioned that. That was a big thing for him, and I got stories for on here. Talk about all your stories and putting them together, trust and loyalty, and having somebody's back, and throwing not rocks but snowballs. You gotta go there, man. You gotta go there. Yeah, are you kidding me? Listen, Frank likes to throw things and run, and that's why he likes baseball. And there's no greater story about love and having somebody's back than this one. I think it's awesome.
Okay, that's for you, Mom. So where I grew up in Stamford, there was a perfect little hill that overlooked the major road that was going by. And
I'm not gonna get any streets here.
Yeah, I'm not giving away. So a few of us used to throw snowballs at cars. It was perfect. You could see the cars coming down the road through the trees, but they couldn't see you, and you could time it perfectly, kind of like throwing a pass. And then as soon as they got by our street, there was a big stone wall, so they couldn't see. So it was, you know what? Can we mute this so my kids don't hear this?
Frankie and Zach ball. Kids, fast forward, please. Okay.
So we used to throw snowballs at cars, and the buses were the most fun. The big yellow buses coming by. So one day, it was actually like a spring day. The snow was melting. They were great packing snowballs. It was just me and one other guy, and we don't do it for hours. We just do it a few, and then we're on our way. So we're throwing a few snowballs at cars, and up at the bottom of the hill off that main street, some middle-aged guy comes walking up the hill, and we don't think anything of it, and we throw a few more snowballs, and he walks right past us. We're not thinking anything, and then he comes up behind us, and he grabs me and my buddy by the back of our shirts, and he goes, "I got you guys." He was a bus driver who obviously goes that route all the time, and we were probably lighting him up all the time. So he went down to the next street, parked the bus, came back, very sneakily walked behind us, and grabbed us. And he brings us to the bus, gets us on the bus, gets on his radio, and he says, "I got the so-and-so gang." So we had a gang, the snowball throwers. So he says to my buddy, he goes, "You go get both of your mothers and come back here with them." And he was so upset. I mean, we were 13. He was crying his eyes out, freaking out, couldn't move. He was like shaking in his boots. He goes, he points to me. He says, "You go get your mothers and come back." So actually, my buddy's house was first, and I go knock on the door, and I say, "Mrs. So-and-so, we got caught throwing snowballs at cars, and the bus driver's over there, and we're in trouble. Your son's over on the bus, you got to go over there." And then I'd walk into my house, and Mom, what's the matter? So we got caught throwing snowballs at the bus. The bus driver's over on the other street, and we need to go over there. I'm in trouble. And I, of course, expect my mom to freak out, which, she's angry at first, but my mom was born in the Bronx, I was born in the Bronx, and all of my mom's relatives still lived in the Bronx. And it was Friday, and my mom used to go down to visit her sisters every Friday. She goes, we're not going over there. Get in the car, we're going to the Bronx, and off we went. I think you block things out in your life. I have no idea what happened after that. I don't know if my buddy got in trouble. I don't know if we got detention when we got back to school, but that was fun. Yeah. So I had to have a decent arm. I threw a lot when I was young.
Yeah. Back to what makes a championship team. Sorry, I just hear all these stories of you throwing and loyalty, and it just made sense.
Degenerate people. Yeah.
I followed up for you a generation later, don't worry.
Yeah.
And I think obviously, besides coming together as a team, talent, right? I mean, talent wins. You can coach, you can be the greatest coach you want, but if you're just out and overmatched that day, that makes it tougher. And luck. A lot of luck comes into it, Obviously, a 162 regular game season is different than.
Is that what we're talking about? Major League?
I'll say different about travel ball than where you have 2 games on a Saturday and either 1 or 3 on a Sunday, and which pitcher do you get rolled out that day, or umpire, or call, or weather, and so many different factors that come in. And I don't know, just back in my head, but my mom told me at a young age that luck is when hard work meets opportunity, right? And there are so many opportunities, and you can get lucky, but if you're not ready and you're not waiting at that door, when that door opens, you can't go through it. I'm talking about preparation, but so many things have to go right.
Yeah, and I think that trust and loyalty factor is everything when you're building a team. Going back, actually, this is a Zach story, something I was very proud of him for. This is one of his biggest off the field moments for me watching him. Is we were out, he was 14 years old, we were out in baseball heaven, we had game slot off in between our semi and our championship game. And the kids were all hanging out by third base, they had the music going on their phone, stretching, screwing around, whatever. And there was one kid sitting in the dugout by himself. And your kid recognized that, walked right into the dugout, put his arm around him, brought him right out to the field, and in with the rest of the boys. And after I saw that, I was like, we're winning this next game.
Done.
Locked in.
Done. I got goosebumps.
And we crushed them.
Yeah. You sure you didn't have something like food at the time? Swiping some swag from him or something?
Yeah, steal this. But that's the moment where he was able to recognize something that not many kids recognize and not many people can recognize. But that was a big moment for that team.
And obviously you need talent to win, and you need characters like that. But when you come together as a team, it just brings out the best in everybody, not just physically. You could have a team, everybody's heard this a million times, you could have a bunch of great, selfish athletes, and the team that comes together can beat that team often. But what are those little things? It's things like that maybe somebody else saw, like that commercial when you see somebody doing nice for somebody else, and then somebody else does something nice.
There was a Volkswagen Bug commercial a couple years ago.
Yeah.
One person smiled, one person, and it just kept going on.
And it usually starts from the top, and the coach and the organization, and everybody starts to pull together. It's not that just you become a little bit better as a player yourself, but all of you become better. You become better people, you start to learn the game, your practices start to get different, and then you were talking about opportunities and breaks and some luck, and you look at sports that we watch on TV, so many things have to go right for teams to win championships. I bring up the tuck rule that started the whole thing, but we won't get into that right now.
Like the Patriots.
But when you're when you have that thing, and you guys are working together, those things happen for you more often than they don't.
Oh yeah, ball starts to bounce your way. Yeah.
On and off the field. I think some of the teams that I've ever played for that won championships, we were dynamic on the field, but we were also close off the field.
Oh yeah.
Like what we would do on Friday nights, hanging out as a group,
Yeah.
I can remember back to all-star teams, I feel like for 30 days you didn't go home alone. You were at your house one day, somebody else's house the next day. It was like a constant sleepover, like a rooming sleepover.
And that's the same thing at the high levels. I mean, you don't have to be be hanging out all the time, but everybody has families. But you've heard all the stories that in spring training or in preseason football in the summer, the team all go out and they do something together. It's all to get that bonding thing. And I just made a reference to the Tuck rule because I'm a Raider fan, and you said I hate the Patriots, but I mean, they're the greatest example of all. They just they keep replacing their players. Obviously, they have possibly the greatest coach and quarterback ever, but they keep replacing players with guys to fill positions, not to take credit away from any of their great players, but they just keep winning it, winning it, winning it. They got that thing.
Is that a microphone in your pocket? Big Pats fan.
Wow.
Sorry. That might not be peaches.
And you know what? When you have it, it's unbelievable. Our run over in Japan, and back to that, you know, when Bobby was there in the 90s, he managed them to their first 500 season in years. And then there was some controversy between him and the front office or whatever, he got fired. And then when we went back, we finished just a couple games over 500 again for the first time since he was there previously, 10 years ago.
Same team.
Same team.
With the Marines. They fired him and then brought him back.
Yep.
Wow.
And they finished...
Same owner, out of curiosity?
Oh, yeah.
Same.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Different office, front office, GM. And I tell you, it was amazing that the first year we were losing a lot at the beginning, and in Japan, the manager stands up at the top of the dugout, top of the stair, while all the players there, and it's the ritual there, you address your players, they don't just wander off into the clubhouse. And I used to, all the coaches would stand near the manager, and I'd watch the eyes of the players, and my perception was they didn't care. They were used to losing, and they didn't care. There was no hurt in their eyes. Bobby was trying to inspire and teach whatever he was doing, and I just didn't see any fire. And then we started to win, like halfway through the season. And I'm watching them, and I'm starting to see a little different look in their eyes. And then we started to lose again, because, you know, we're just building something. This is our first year. And now, when we're losing, the look in their eyes was totally different than when we were losing before. And all along the way, you know, Bobby's goal was, obviously, we want to acquire good talent, we want to teach good baseball, but bringing these guys together and making them feel like it. And then we won a championship the next year, and there was just such a feeling of everybody getting along. And when you're a part of something like that, at that high level, which was pretty cool, but even, you know, our Fury teams, or as a player, it's cool. That's what brings you back.
Yeah.
If you haven't experienced that, you need to, because that's really
tough
cool.
in baseball too, because baseball is an individual team sport, right?
Yeah.
You're the guy making the play, you're the guy making the pitch, or you're taking the swing, but you all have to work together and still come together to achieve stuff. Yeah. Whereas in football, if I don't do my job, someone's getting lit up, and then, you know what I mean? Like, it's a way different experience. Or basketball or soccer, where you have to move in space together. It's very, I feel like it's a little easier maybe to kind of...
It's definitely easier on the football field. I mean, think about it. If you make an error or miss a tackle on the football field, it's like whatever. There's, you know, 10 other guys trying to fall. If you make an error on a baseball field, everybody sees it.
Yeah.
So, you know,
it kind of singles you out a little bit.
It does, no doubt.
You know, one of the greatest moments, coaching the Fury team that I coached, and that won a lot, but we were at baseball heaven one night, and this team got good. There were some really good players. There were several D1 baseball players. We had a good nucleus of players that were really coming together, but it's late. There's one game going on. None of the lights are on any of the fields. It's cold. Everybody's freezing. The kids that aren't in the lineup, kids are playing with their hoodies on underneath, and we're playing a team that's older than us. And I don't remember the exact situation. We're down by one. We rally. Somebody gets a hit to score the tying run, and then Rod Salvatore gets up, who was on the bench, freezing. And at the time, Rod was the smallest guy on the team by far, since he's sprouted and he's much bigger now. But I mean, we had some pretty big guys. Jack Caraturo's on the team. You know, Rod and a couple other guys came up to his waist. And the most unlikely guy in the freezing cold, he had this green neon hood underneath his Fury uniform, and he just hit a little outside fastball down the left field line that, fortunate, you talk about breaks, hit and went into the stands for a ground rule double.
Ball game.
And we win the game. Wow. And now, you know, there's no doubt about it. If we brought him in, and maybe we should someday, you know, Rod playing with that group of guys that, you know, they loved him, he loved them. It was all, you know, there's no, who cares who was the biggest, who was the littlest guy on the team. And he comes up and got one of the most memorable hits for me ever coaching.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. tough.
And we talk about the championship teams, and there's a lot of teams that I think we all coached that maybe didn't have the talent to win a championship, but we've all put in our time. I can look back and say, you know what, my best job of being a coach, maybe we didn't win a championship, but it was the talent that we had. It was to see the progression of these kids, how they came together, how they got better. Maybe we didn't win a championship, but that was a championship team, and that was a championship effort in my eyes. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
We might have just didn't win a state championship, or we didn't win the,
you don't need a trophy to be a champion.
You don't need a trophy sometimes, you know?
And if you get the kids to believe that and the parents to believe that, then you really accomplished something.
The only thing in my eyes that's missing there is the luck part, right? You did everything you could. You built that field. You trust each other. You're going, and you just didn't get lucky. You didn't get that break that you needed on that day. You know, it's a
That
lot.
was aggressive knock.
Yeah. Who was
Are we
it?
in trouble?
We're talking about
Oh,
behind the
nice.
sticks.
Oh, yeah. So that's where we're at with that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This was episode 2 from Bobby V's. Sorry. Oh, you're not done? Oh, we're not done. We're not done. Okay, sorry.
Are we going to talk about good stories? Yeah. I'm looking, we can be done.
Hopefully you guys like what you see so far. Please make sure you subscribe to all of our social media channels. Ver's been working really, really hard to get us to push content out there, and we want to keep delivering some great, hopefully fun stuff for you. And careful. So thank you very much for watching. This was Shooting the Breeze at Bobby V's. Have a good night, everybody.
How do you know it's night?